Trollord Games. Join the fray.
There we go. I think. Alright, good deal. Everything's confused on my computer. Largely because of some rerouting we did of various and sundry things. Setting up the TLG servers. There's been a couple of bumps along the way. But we're working through all that goobly goo. Alright, good deal. I know, Tim, it's going to be tough for you to see and hear anything because you got storms on top of you now in the wilderness. The roads are washed away. The river's overflowing. You have to get a barge to get you out of there. How's it going, Kadora? How's you doing, old school? We are here for Ask Me Anything. Yes, it's been an eventful, 7 days since last we gathered here for Ask Me Anything. A rather eventful 7 days. So we'll see. We'll see if this week calms down any. Oh, there you go. How's it going, Great Pape? We are happy to announce, and I need to send an update out for the Monsters and Treasures of Arid 5th edition. How's it going, Void Crime? Walsworth, our printer, picked up the books yesterday, and they're already loaded up we got them on the trucks, and they're headed back to the printers to either be tossed or rebound or whatever it is. So for those of you in the M&T of A Kickstarter for 5th edition, it's moving rapidly in that direction, the repair, as those books were in not good shape. I'm not sure, Great Pip, but what they said they normally do when it's like that is they can pull the in sheets off and rebind the whole thing without losing the book block, which is cool because then you don't lose an absolute mountain of paperwork, time, and effort, because it's a lot. I mean, it's 4,500 pounds of books that would be destroyed. So that's what they're hoping to be able to do. They're going to kind of sift through them, see if they can't salvage any, see if some aren't salvageable. But we went through, 400, and of those 400, I think 14 were salvageable. So they need to just bite the bullet and redo the whole thing. Which sucks, but that's what it is. How's it going, Jay? Hope you're having a good day. We're ambling along here in Troll World, as we always do. How's you doing, Ultra Magnus and Willie? M5. Yeah, it would be good. I would like to see... I hate waste, so tossing all those book blocks into the dumpster is not cool. I know sometimes they have to do it. The weird thing is... So we've been with Walsworth. We've been working, with Walsworth since... The World Builder's second printing, I think, was the first. Gary Gygax's World Builder's second printing was the first book we printed with him. It was going to be like 2005, 2004, I don't know, somewhere around in there. So 15 years, 16 years, 17 years? We've had exactly 2 books come to us. How's it going, Longshot, Ravenchild? We've had exactly, hey, Commander Pete, we've had exactly 2 books that we've had to return because they weren't, bound or printed correctly or whatever. Both of those books, one was the Monsters and Treasures of Arid 5th edition. The other one was Monsters and Treasures of Arid Castles and Crusades, second printing. So I'm not sure if that book is cursed or what it is. We may not do that book anymore. We may just let it run its course and then repackage all of that stuff in some future edition some other way. I don't know, but it doesn't bode well that the same book over 17 years is damaged differently. It wasn't the same way, so that's good. The first time we had to return it, the Smythe sewn didn't take, the sewing section didn't take, and the signatures wouldn't hold together. So when we got them, the signatures were real loose in the book, and pages were kind of, it was staying together, but they were flopping about, which is, it's not really good for a book to be flopping about. How's it going, Prelix? Obsidian, how are you all doing today? So we're here for Ask Me Anything. It is May 4th. I can't believe it's already May. It is May 4th. We're ambling into the summer months very soon. It's beginning to warm up here, but we're getting a lot of rain. And we're here to talk about anything you guys want to talk about, whether it's Kickstarters, Trollord Games, projects we're working on, layout stuff, the new covers we've rolled out. all kinds of stuff, whatever. Industry news, there's been a bit of that creeping around, so anything, throw it out there and we'll digest it. So I watched something today you might be like, Steve, a 1995 movie called The City of Lost Children. It's pretty weird, but good RPG inspiration. I don't think I've ever heard of it. I'm trying to get into, what is it, Shadows and Bones? Bones and Shadows, Shadow Bones? Something. And it is in French with English subtitles and has a young Jack Ron Perlman in it, which is why I kept watching it even though it was in French. That's funny. They always used to be for bonfire, and rituals could be performed to bring forth the old gods. Oils used to be used for bonfires. And there you go. We could use Shadow and Bone is the name of it. We could use some of that for some of these books we're floating around. we could sacrifice them to the old gods. Cadora, the Warden boxes were approved on Monday. So it generally takes them between 10 and 20 days to get those done. So they should be heading our way in about 2 weeks, give or take, something like that. I'm very excited about the box. We did a new design this time to kind of help alleviate some of the issues that we've had in the past. So I'm super stoked on that box. And as soon as it gets here, we should be able to start shipping the Warden. So very, very soon, we've got them keyed up. We've got the boxes, the shipping boxes, everything ready to go. So that as soon as it lands, we'll start assembling them and rolling them out. Of course, I said that about the Monsters and Treasures of Earth 5th edition, and that didn't happen for reasons that we have discussed already. Bone and Shadow, I haven't started that yet, but it's on. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I mean, I think I got like 20 minutes into it, 25 minutes into it last night. I like the effects, look cool. The cast looks cool. I like the costuming, everything looks cool. So I'll have to really. I just kind of got my mind sort of wandering. There's so much troll crap going on right now. And Peter and I, that's Peter there, Ravenchild. Peter and I are messing with some layouts for some books, and that was on my mind, so I ended up wandering down just to work on book layout for a while. So I didn't get into it very far. Let's see. I have a question. If a vampire is wearing an eye patch with a mirror on the inside, can they see behind them? No, they cannot see behind them. They can't see anything. Man, I gotta tell you. So, for the first time, no, I've done vampires twice. I've been running games since 79. I've been playing since 77. I've been running games since 79, give or take, whatever. So I ran some vampires in the game the other night. They were actually vampire spawn. But they killed one of them. They killed a couple of them or whatever. I can't remember what it was. But then I got to reading the text. They were they're 6th level, and they're way out in the mountains. They're far from anything. They didn't really know they were going to be running into vampires. They thought it might be a possibility. But a vampire, according to the CNC Monsters and Treasures, let's see. If it's not sunlight, a stake driven through the heart of a vampire will kill it as long as the stake remains in place. If it is removed, the vampire awakens and functions normally. To permanently kill a staked vampire, its head must be removed, its mouth filled with holy wafers, and then the entire corpse must be buried in consecrated ground. That seems like an awful lot of work to kill a vampire. It seems like that vampire is never going to get killed. For you guys who run games out there, how often do your characters carry holy wafers? I mean, how often does that actually happen? It can't be that often. So I'm probably, in the Gods and Monsters of Air, going to create a vampire that's a little bit more manageable from the CK side, from the GM side, and from the player side. That just seemed a little bit outrageous to me. And I have to tell you, it plays into this weird thing that I can't ever quite grasp for like a troll that regenerates. So if you chopped a troll into 700 pieces, would 700 trolls regenerate, or would it? And then you put each of the pieces in a bottle. Would they reconnect? I don't know. Or is it just from one piece that the troll comes back, and which piece is it? And what if you put them all in the bottle? Does it regenerate the bottle and it breaks? Well, I don't know. It's just, there's just so many, and I get magic, but there's so many inconceivable things around that regeneration stuff that drives me crazy. Any movement on organized play? None that I know of, and actually I've pulled everybody back from a lot of projects that we have started, until we get these 5 Kickstarters done. Minimally 3 of them. There's still quite a bit of bumpy stuff that we got to get over. All little, but it's all a lot, and especially in the NPC Almanac, there's a small chunk of the CKG that, not the book itself, but the adverts book of whatever these things need done. So there's some things that need to get done, and I want everyone to just stop what we're doing, get focused on what needs to get done, and get it done. And then in a month's time or so, when we're over this hump, and we've made tremendous strides in the last couple of months. The Warden is finished. The Monsters Treasure Fair is finished. The CKG is largely finished. We've dove into the layout issues I talked about earlier, was the Player's Archive and the Player's Handbook. Peter and I are meshing the final kind of layout on that. So lots of little things that need to be wrapped up, and it's going to include everybody from Jason Vade to Chuck to Tim to Todd. For instance, the Gods and Monsters book, it's done, it's finished, it's in editing. Most of it's edited and ready for layout. But we still have, I think, the Slavic deities that need to be added to granted abilities too. So there's still little bits and pieces, and that's Todd's department. So everybody's going to stop. We had this conversation last week. Everybody's going to stop what they're doing, and we're going to focus on these elements of this Kickstarter and get this stuff done. We really need, I wanted the slate cleared by March, end of March, so that we can move forward with projects that we really want to do. Not that we don't want to do these, but the new stuff, like the Planescape stuff. But everything's just not to skew. So we're gonna get this stuff wrapped up. Let's see. The only vampire I ever used put on a helm of opposite alignment, became the lawful good proprietor of the Green Dolphin Inn. There you go. That's the way to do the vampire. Put him to bed. I am eager for organized play program, but I also realize it can wait because I only would game in person. Yeah, it's one we all want it up and running, and it's something TLG has needed for a long time, and CNC certainly has needed it. It just takes a lot of organization, a lot of resources from our part, and until we get the Player's Handbook, particularly the CKG, back in print, the Player's Handbook, it's still in print, but we're down to if you notice, we don't push the Player's Handbook or Castles and Crusades anywhere because we don't have enough books left to sell. So we're just holding on to those until we can get these things down. So these books have got to get done now. Hey Steve, did you ever look at my message on Discord? I did not. I will make a note and do that. I told you to message me there, and I completely forgot to check it. But I will attempt to do that today. I'm trying to shift all of my conversations from everywhere else to Discord, so it's easier for me to manage. But I'll check it out, King Kothar. Kadora, you could go the route Brian Lumley did in the Necroscope books: stake the heart, cut off the head, and burn the head and body separately. There's got to be but if you knock one of these monsters to like -40, do they still come back? I mean, if you fireball this guy into oblivion, does he still come back? I guess he does. I don't know. The vampire myth it's a pretty strong creature, so it needs to be killed. It doesn't need to be easily killed. I get that part, but that just seems to go a little bit over the top. Saw the new CKG and the NPC book covers. Both look great. The NPC cover pulls all you right in. Love the immersion feeling from it. Very well done, Kent. Thank you for that, Athelson. Yeah, I'm super stoked about it. Tom Tullis over at Fat Dragon Games. I was talking to him on Friday. I mentioned to him a new logo, something a little bit different. He was helping me lay out one of the alternate covers that our logo was going to cover the whole demon's head on the CKG, and that was driving me crazy. And we couldn't really shrink it unless we started doing this framing technique, which we've tried before, and I've never really particularly cared the framing, except Peter did. In the early days of CNC, Peter did a really cool framework that looked like torn paper. I don't think I have a sample of that in my, that's weird, I have a sample of everything in this desk. Wait, if I can get it. There it is, right there. So, I really liked this. I thought that was a cool look, and it gave us plenty of room for logos and all of that crap. But barring that, so I got to talk to Tom Tullis. He does a lot of graphic design, obviously, over at Fat Dragon. He's a good friend of mine, and he said, hey, let me just experiment. And then he shot a bunch of different styles over, and I fell in love with that one immediately. So we went with it. So a big, huge thank you to Tom Tullis and Fat Dragon Games. Some vampires can be killed by exposing the body to sunlight, then immersing the ashes in running water. No holy wafers required. Yeah, so now it does say if you put them in sunlight, it'll destroy them. And has something in there about running water. But if you don't have those two, if you're underground, they were 700 feet underground, and there's no way they're going to get sunlight down there. So it's just interesting. And when you're kind of playing this out, I don't know, in my head, and I didn't carry it over the table until the game was over, but in my head it kind of broke the continuity of this monster. There's really no way they can defeat this monster because they don't have holy wafers. So they didn't have stakes. They had to take torches and carve stakes into the torches, which I thought was pretty cool. Thanks, Kador, for the compliments on the covers. If you dice up a troll, the little cubes squirm around and try to reform themselves into the whole troll. If you bottle the cubes, they'll squirm around for a few hours, then all but the largest cubes will shrivel and die. Then the troll will regrow from the soul chunk and explode out of the bottle. What if you put it in an iron cask? Will it eventually just break out of the iron cask or a stone sarcophagi? I don't know. Does it turn into this cube? You know how is it in France or Japan where they grow watermelons in a box so they come out square? So will your troll come out square? Or when you open the box, will it pop out like like something from, I don't know, a slinky or something? I don't know. All that stuff get kind of, when I'm running games, it's one of the reasons I don't use those monsters often, because there's this break, a lack of continuity in my head that bugs me a little bit, so I just don't bring them to the table. A CKG is a must-buy for me when it's available in the store. Yeah, it's coming very soon. I'm super stoked about the interior of the CKG. Tons of new illustrations, maps, all kinds of stuff. Peter did a bang-up job laying the thing out, so it looks really good. I'm super stoked about the CKG. Yes, I'll be buying it from the store the day it is available very soon. Still, lots of sources, like from Hammer Films, you can redirect a vampire by putting blood on their ashes. Which is why you separate the head from the body. Now that's interesting. I'd never heard that. Fire negates regeneration. Let's see. You should be able to disintegrate and irrevocably kill a vampire by immersing them in sunlight. Sunlight definitely does it. If vampires are supposed to be hard to kill, they are definitely supposed to be hard to kill. So that's the balance. I mean, it really was the... See, and that's another thing. So if you cut off the vampire's head... Okay, so this is where it breaks for me. So let's say you don't have a stake, and you don't have the holy wafers, and you don't have exposure to sunlight, and you don't have running water. You're in a dungeon, and you kill the vampire, and you cut his head off. So you take his head. I'm taking the head, and you wander off with the head. You put it in a box, and this is literally what happened. They took this vampire's head. So when they came back to the dead body of the vampire, is it like Beetlejuice when he loses his head and it's a body with his tiny little head regrowing from the vampire? So you got this tiny little squeaky voice head coming out of the vampire, or while you're carrying his head, is this tiny little vampire body growing out of the head? Or does it just rematerialize? So the head just disappears from the one spot and reappears in the other spot. I don't know. There's just this. I don't know. Literary is not the word. Visual. There's just this visual link that I can't quite get my head around. Square looking troll would be awesome. You could be walking around, his little legs might pop out. So it's a little square. It's like a cube with little legs roaring at people. Vampires make great recurring villains because they're difficult. Yeah, they definitely do that. But at a certain point, it gets silly. That's a great way to make the super secret new monster called the Iron Bone Troll. They merge with the Iron Bottom while they regenerate and have pebbly iron skin that's giving them AC comparable to plate. Well, there you go. The new troll cube pillow. I saw that cube pillow on Facebook not too long ago. I need a new pillow. It depends on the tone you want. If it's a vampire, not a slime monster that you can run into human. Why not bother? Why not both? And then you have two vampires. Yeah, there you go. But even then, is there a point where the body is laying there and this tiny little head is growing out of the shoulders, where you got this, a head the size of a dice growing? Yeah, I don't know. It just makes a break for me. It's all very silly, but it just breaks it visually in my head. It grows from the inside out. Skull forms first, then blood and veins, then lastly skin. But does it pop out? Does it pop out of the neck suddenly that there's a head? And what happens if you hold the head in? I don't know. Spider legs pop out of the body and it runs away. Okay, the thing. Yeah, there you go. So it runs away with the body kind of flopping on the top of the spider legs. What was that? There was a Burroughs story. The Chessmen of Mars, I think, actually had the bodies. There were the bodies of humans that were occupied by some kind of other being. I can't remember what it was. And they had spider-like legs stuck into these necklaces, bands that they had on their heads, so the spiders could actually break free of the bodies. It's pretty imaginatively cool. The iron door on the box could be inexplicably burst open, and the head of the vampire could fly forth and reach to the body. Whoa! I don't know. I have the vampire hunt down the PCs with his head. There you so essentially you got this body walking down the street. He can't suck anyone's blood or anything because his head's in a box somewhere across town. I don't know. Yeah, there you go, Sleepy Hollow. Yeah, didn't he carry his head? Was a pumpkin or something? I can't remember. Yeah, there you go. I gotta get a Dr. Pepper on this one. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, and it's kind of, I won't say it's petty, but it's kind of petty of me to look at it that way because it's a vampire. I mean, they clearly have to be tough to kill, but the whole separating, I don't know, because that literally is what happened. They killed the vampire. They didn't know it was a vampire. They killed it, and then Dakota cut its head off, and I can't remember why. I can't remember why he cut its head off. He was trying to do something with it, and then they wandered off across the dungeon and they went up this elevator shaft to get out of the dungeon, and he still had the head with him. So later they come back into the dungeon, and I'm thinking, and the body of the vampire is still laying there because that was in my head. Did the body get up and wander around looking for the head? So you got this headless body wandering around. Is it aware? Does it have any kind of self-awareness whatsoever? And what is the head doing? Is it talking? Is it what? I don't know. Just everything kind of crumbled apart in my head. I say the vampire head uses his brain to call his minions to harass the PCs. I think the head needs to be reunited with the vampire's body. It's got to be somehow, but I mean, it's in a bag, a mile away. Heinlein, the puppet masters, had a concept of a group mind of creatures controlling humans. Yeah, the Burroughs thing, Chessmen of Mars is a really good story. It's really good. The Thing Vampire, the Headless Horseman is an old Celtic myth. You got a whole book about it published. Yes, we do. But none of that explains what regrows and what does it look like when it regrows. That's my question. Yeah, little tiny bites like a horsefly. Yeah, so it's a tiny little bitty head that pops out of their shoulders, and it's just gnawing at people. Yes, it would be very weird. Maybe the body moves around looking for the head like a duala. But then, I mean, how many people would put up with a body wandering around without a head? Let's just assume that 9 out of 10 of them are going to run, but 1 out of 10 is going to get tired of this body wandering around their cornfield without a head. And they're going to burn it. I'm going to do something to it. Maybe regeneration is stopped with the head and body reunited. See, now that I can do. That's good. Then the players have to keep the head with them or be rejoined. But what if they ride away on a horse and throw it in the bushes? Like 17 miles away. Does the head roll in that direction or does the body wander over there? I don't know. She just have the body be mysteriously gone when the PCs get back. Gives them a wicked fight. See, that's probably should, one of the others should disintegrate. Or maybe both disintegrate and it reforms in the vampire's lair. That's probably the best way. After 20... See, when I rewrite the monster, it's going to have something like that. So it disintegrates, both head and body disintegrate, and then it reforms later. Something like that. Can your vampires turn into mist? There you go. See, yes, Commander, we were right on the same thing. Yes, they can turn into a gaseous form. So when you do, that's what it should be. Right there should be the ruling. And see, this is collective groupthink from King Kothar, Commander Pete. This is it. A new magic item, head of disguise. That'd be great. When the vampire is decapitated, if the vampire is not staked, the head reverts to gaseous form, the body reverts to gaseous form, and both naturally return to the vampire's coffin and or lair, and they're reformed. See, there, we have solved it. Problem solved. Now I've got an idea in my head how that will actually work. In the Buffy series, a decapitated or staked vampire goes poof into dust. Yeah, there you go. So we're all in the same ring. All right, I have a game mechanic. So we're off vampires. Great Babe's going to put us on to game mechanics. All right, I have a game mechanic question about the Warrior Priest class in Adventurer's Backpack. It says for them to cast spells, it takes 1 round longer to cast. So would 1 round longer than an instant casting time be instant also or become 1 round? It'd be 1 full round. So, yeah, it would be the next round, essentially, or at the end of the round, however the CK wants to do it. So, yeah, so if I want to cast whatever, then the next round, it would be, that's when it would go off. Which one is the Warrior Priest? They've got an Oath Sworn and a Divine Knight in the game I'm running now. So I've become pretty familiar with those. But the Warrior Priest, I wrote most of these, but I can't remember it because it was too long ago. Because my brain don't function like that. Oh yes, the Crazy Man picture. I remember now. All right, so yeah, that's right. We took spells away. Is that correct? Yes. We reduced. It's basically a cleric, a weakened cleric, a magically weakened cleric that has more fighting abilities. That's what the warrior priest is, which makes sense why it would be called a warrior priest. That is good gaseous form. Yeah, I like it. See, we've solved it. We have solved the vampire conundrum that was bothering me so. I like it. Gaseous form. They become gas. We're angry. When the vampire forms, yeah, it would be extraordinarily angry because it was decapitated. It would not be in a good mood. So we haven't solved the troll in the iron box yet, but I kind of like the cubes troll anyway. So maybe we go with that. And there's some kind of food that comes in cubes. Cube. They put little like toothpicks in it. I don't know, something. The warrior priest also doesn't have to memorize or prepare spells though. Oh, there you go. So they give a little bit of angle on the magic side of things, but a little bit of restriction on it. And the idea there, I know because I created that one. The idea was for them to focus, for the player to focus on the combat side of things as opposed to the magic side of things. One of the things that we tried to do, and I think we did a decent job of this in the Adventurers Backpack, is as we created these new classes to not detract from the standard classes. The standard 4, of course, in the Player's Handbook, but also the whole 13 in the Player's Handbook. We didn't want to detract from those classes too much. But let people play, standard, holy crap. Excuse me. To let people play what they wanted, or what they were traditionally used to playing, but also give them these options that didn't detract from them. Let's see, troll Swedish meatballs. There you go. Yeah, what happens if you eat the troll? Does it still regenerate? You chew it up, turn it into a paste, swallow it. What happens if a dragon eats a troll? What happens if a troll eats a troll? Does it regenerate in his stomach? I don't know. It's also very confusing. And it has lay on hands ability that is ranged. Yeah, but that's it, right? That they only had the one cure, I think. Something about that. There was something about their cure that was special. How does an Ogre Magi fly? You give it a flight speed, but the creature is not described as having wings. It has a fly spell, but so do other creatures, and you do not bother to give them that flight speed. But what mechanism does it? So that's another. That's funny you should say that, because that's one of the problems I have, which apparently is turned into a Steve pet peeve thing at the table, and this goes from every game, AD&D all the way up to CNC. So when they cast fly, like characters, wizards are always casting fly on themselves. So when I envision the magic carpet, and I can't remember the characters who are using it, but from the genie, whatever, and they're on the magic carpet, I can kind of see that. You've got this carpet that's capable of flying, so you get on the carpet and you take off. But just some guy standing there, I don't know. It's just weird. How's he doing that? I get it's magic. I get that, but it looks weird. What if his shoe falls off? What if you fly up and your shoe falls off? And does the shoe fall off, or is it affected by a fly spell? I don't know, the whole fly thing. And it's funny, you should mention that, King Go, because I ran an Ogre Magi the other day, and it pulverized, the party had split, pulverized 2 of the party members, and they were starting to run away. And, of course, it can fly a little bit faster than they could run, so it leapt in the air. And I described it not so much as flying, like in a jetpack, but leaping more, like Superman fly. The original Superman couldn't fly. He could leap taller, higher? Yes, he could leap higher than tall? Whatever. You know what I'm saying. He could jump around a bunch. So that's sort of what I've done with the Ogre Magi. He didn't really fly. He kind of leaped in huge jumps. I really do have to be able to conceptualize, and I'm pretty good at conceptualizing most things, but I have to be able to see it. Steve, what's your opinion on the last few years' increase with the celebrities coming out as D&D players and using their popularity to present what the game means for them? Do you feel it's helping the next generation of gamers, or is it presenting a more Hollywood vision of gaming? I think what happened, I think it's almost done too. I think that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition hit really, really hard, and it took the younger generation, probably younger millennials and Zoomers, by storm. So these are people that had already been gaming, but not the way we game. This is a cool whole, the way I've been looking at this a bit lately. this is a cool whole turn of events. So these younger gamers, they're looking at this game, Dungeons and Dragons, as new and innovative and something wholly different than the years of gaming that they have already been doing. They've been gaming online a lot. They've been gaming with consoles and PCs and phones. They've been gaming since they were, 4 or 5 or 6 years old or whatever it was, or younger. So Dungeons and Dragons comes along, and it releases this stuff, and it really appeals to people who are already so immersed in a gaming culture that now suddenly they are discovering and have discovered that where the video games that they've been playing control everything, what you can do, what you can play, what kind of characters, all of these things are controlled. Suddenly they have control over it, and it's taken them time to warm to it. So I think that it took 5th edition, it did really well going out the gate, but it actually has taken a few years for it to expand into this video game market of video gamers, and I think now in the last couple of years it has taken such a deep root. And I'm on TikTok a lot, and I'm following a lot of D&D players, just people who play. They're not celebrities, they're not whatever. Some of them have 200,000 followers, some of them have 500 followers, and I'm watching and listening to them. I'm not commenting much. I'm not doing what I'll hit a like button or whatever. And they're all younger people. They have embraced this game like crazy, and it's an amazingly wonderful thing to watch this younger generation come in and see the actual value in role-playing games, and they are seeing it just like we did back in the 1970s and 1980s or whatever your age group is there. King Kothar is one of these people, and it is absolutely astounding to watch. Now, that's column A. Column B, and to your point in question, I think when this began to explode about 3 years ago. Now, 5th edition, like I said, did really good when it came out the gate. 8 years, 7 years, whatever it was. But it's really begun to explode in the last 3 or 4 years. I think a whole bunch of celebrities jumped on that bandwagon. One, I think some actually legitimately played it. But I think a whole bunch of celebrities jumped on that bandwagon. And I don't want to, that sounds negative. Seeing this as a new venue of entertainment. Some of them played a lot. Some of them had just learned how to play the game and learned quickly that this is a game that plays right to their strengths. I mean, actors and actresses, that's what they do, right? so it's a game that they suddenly were passionate about, which is great. But I think very, very quickly, and I said this, a couple of years ago, it faded pretty quickly because actors and actresses, they have to make a living just like the rest of us do. I know we all grumble at them, but they have a job. Their job is to act and to act. And they got to get gigs and that pay money to pay their mortgages and car payments and all of that other crap. So I think quickly that they discovered that, and I could be wrong on this, but they discovered that all of the playing the game publicly on Twitch or YouTube or wherever wasn't actually paying the bills, and they've already kind of stepped back. A lot of the middle of the road have stepped back. Now, obviously, a lot of them, like Joe Manganiello, I cannot say his name ever. And who's Vin Diesel? Is it Vin Diesel plays? They obviously are serious role players. They've been doing it for decades, but they already have well-established careers, etc., etc., etc. So I think that a lot of celebrities came in, and I don't want just it's a new venue. They came into this new venue to see if they could make a living here, and it proved to not be the case in many cases, and they've kind of receded a little bit now. I'm not seeing as many celebrities this year as in previous years come out talking about Dungeons and Dragons or whatever RPGs. There still are a lot who do it, I have no doubt, but I think that it's already moved past the point that they're going to be able to make a living doing this. It's a very crowded market. It's a very tough market. It's not as easy. So they've moved on. So I don't think really that the celebrities had a very large impact. I think that what really has had an impact on growing this hobby, and by that I mean all of these RPGs, is the Zoomers. What do we call them? The Z Generation Z. Is that what they're called? The Generation Z moving, just a natural evolution. So if you look at people my age and your age, our natural evolution was we started playing back in the 70s, and we went from these paper RPGs to the Atari, and we thought that, what was it, the Commodore. These things were so cool. We played Pong and whatever we did. and then we evolved into arcade games, into the big giant thingamabobs. And so the Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games were a part of this growing thing, and then we evolved into these badass Baldur's Gate and whatever it is, and all these computer-simulated games where we're playing Dungeons and Dragons essentially in this computerized environment, and we're seeing it. So we see this great evolutionary thing. Theirs is a completely different and opposite experience. They started with the video games, so they've evolved. Their higher form of gaming is the RPGs. What we saw, this is their higher form of gaming, because now they control the narrative, they control their characters, they get to dress exactly the way they want, be exactly what they want, and develop worlds and stories and arcs. So this is just a natural evolution for the Generation Z to make. I'm a little stunned that it happens, but I'm not stunned at all, because these people are gamers, and they game they probably game more than we do, even when we were kids. They game constantly. So to step into the RPG universe was just a natural evolution, I think, of what these people do. And I think the celebrities had almost nothing to do with that. I think it had a very little impact. I think that some of it was self-serving, some of it was a genuine warmth from these celebrities that, look, this hobby I've been playing for 30 years is now finally mainstream and in my industry, so this is wonderful. So I think you had some legitimacy, and then you had, just like everything else, you have some people that are trying to turn it into, which is a legitimate thing to do. I don't want to fault anyone for trying to make a career at something. That's crazy. I think it's great. So I really do think that the celebrity impact hasn't been that great. It certainly helped a little bit, maybe get some views on a Twitch channel or something like that, but those views are transitory. They're not going to be there 6 shows later, right? The people who are going to keep coming back are the gamers. They're not coming back to the Twitch channel in order to see whatever celebrity jammer on. They're going to want to know about games. They're going to want to watch the game played or whatever it is. And in the huge pool of RPG gamers from ages 10 to ages 70, there is an almost limitless amount of talent and imagination. So I don't think a celebrity is going to carry any more weight than someone else who's just playing really cool. And we've all seen people who play really cool and those who really don't. So, yeah, I don't think it really impacted it that much at all. It is the short answer. That was a fucking long answer to that question. RPG great. Chris. Troll just stops regenerating when it runs out of room, but maybe the regeneration power builds up for a greatly increased regeneration speed. There you go. So literally, when you open that box, it goes like a jack in the box, a troll in the box. That's it, Commander Pete. We've got a troll in the box. Acid damage in your digestion could negate regeneration. Yeah, surely that would do it. You've seen Alien. You know how this goes. That's it, Kadora. I love it. Most trolls are susceptible to fire, but aren't they susceptible to acid? That I don't know. Wouldn't stomach acid? Surely it would. But I like Kadora's approach to that. For as long as they are in the stomach part of the digestive journey, I guess. In an inherently looking spell. Levitate looks much good. Yeah, of course it does. My plan's ruined by the tyranny of the rules. Let's see. Leap tall buildings in a single bounce. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I knew he did something with the buildings. I just couldn't remember what. Flies and others. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. If the shoe falls and it forces, does anybody hear it? Yeah, I have to run early today. Thanks for the stream. We'll see you later, Great Pig. This type of gaming is only limited by your imagination, not computer programming. Yeah, that's the thing with it. And these kids are finding it out. I hate that word, kids, but these youngsters are finding it out. Felicia Day had one of the best shows called The Guild. Yeah, it was very good. No doubt. I do enjoy Critical Role as well, though I've not been able to listen to it often. I have a lot of thoughts about the Hollywoodification of Dungeons & Dragons, not so much in reference to actual Hollywood people jumping into RPGs, but in the creation of an upper echelon of celebrities in the RPG hobby. I mean the sort of internet content creators who are perceived by massive audiences as having a greater degree of authority than that might deserve to be attributed, as created an elite class of gamers is not their fault, but their audience for making the content. Yeah, I get that. I don't... so if Celebrity X has a Twitch show and they talk, and they're going to get more viewers because they're a celebrity, obviously they come into the game with more weight, right? And I guess I don't certainly, I know you don't either, but I don't begrudge them that. I think that's fine. Use whatever tools you have available. But I'm not sure. I guess I haven't seen this kind of celebrity elitism about it. But then again, I don't get much into beyond the troll lord world. You know, I look and watch and listen to people who aren't game designers and aren't celebrities. I really prefer people that are just gamers, because that's who we're, you know, moving our product to. And that's not to say we don't occasionally reach out to a celebrity, but yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm seeing that, perhaps. I know I've seen a lot of kind of mention and discussion about celebrities ruining the hobby, but I don't think so. I honestly, for my 2 cents, I don't know how you would ruin the hobby. Whether you're whatever, it's an imaginary role playing game where you're supposed to play whatever you want to play, right? So it doesn't matter who you are. Right? The president, it doesn't matter. Play whatever. I don't care. Celebrities, it doesn't matter. Whether it's a homeless person playing Dungeon, if I was homeless, I'd probably be still playing Castles and Crusades. So, yeah, I'm not sure. This is sadly a very legitimate concern. The mainstreamification of gaming has been a bit of a double-edged sword. See, I think that's it, Xander. The mainstreaming happened long before celebrities got involved. The mainstreaming was with video games. Video games, when they became so huge in the early aughts, and now they're just... My understanding is, I was talking to someone who works in that industry not very long ago, and that the video game market is now larger than the television, movie, board game, card game, RPG market all combined. So the mainstream, it has happened long ago, and now this hobby has become part of that, and it's just another game that they're playing. I don't know, it's very interesting, because I see a lot of these younger people also say things like, older gamers are all, what is it called, gatekeeping or something? Older gamers are always telling us we're doing this wrong, or whatever it is. It's a very interesting concept to me, because I'm not sure how you can do an RPG wrong. Just literally the discussion we're having about vampires, we all clearly have a different take on the way vampires go. I don't know how you do it wrong. You're supposed to do it how you want to do it. From AD&D, I don't know how the other editions, but I do know that AD&D and Castles and Crusades encourage you to take the game and own it. So I'm not sure how all of that kind of plays. I see there's a fun mesh between the whole anime genre, fan crowd, and the tabletop crowd, with tabletop games like Sword World. I don't know what any of that is. That's Japanese, I believe. I have to say that I was worried about that for a while, but the longer that this has gone on, the less I've seen evidence in actual play. Granted, my evidence is anecdotal, but I can't yet say I've run into... I'd say that's where I am, Phantom. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing celebrities or their opinions change the way games are written or change the way games are presented. The only thing I can say... and I don't know where this comes into this discussion. I have noticed this tendency towards layout in books to reduce content, to reduce literary content and imaginative content to more mechanical content. So when you look at the pages of a book, the way they are laid out now, it's like, our average word count on a page is 750 to 1,000 words. That is densely packed text. You get the Codex of Error, you get any of our books, the CKG, they're very densely packed. But modern RPGs have a lot less of that, it seems to me. They're 220 pages of much less. Now, it's not fluff, it's mechanics. It seems to be. I'd really have to kind of get into the content and see. So, yeah, I'm really not also seeing this going on. Off the cuff example, if you Google Dungeon Master, you don't get pictures of the character from the cartoon. You get mountains of far art of one specific person, and you all know who it is. But see, there, that's a good example, King Cother, because that Dungeon Master for the cartoon, and I've been playing since 1977. I hated that Dungeon Master of the cartoon. The Dungeon Master had nothing to do with the game whatsoever. The Dungeon Master just adjudicated and told the story. And at no point, and I don't know if you guys did it differently, but at no point did I appear ever on the table. Ever. So whenever I saw that Dungeon Master cartoon, I was like, there's no Dungeon Master in the game. There's just fighters and clerics, that whole thing. So not seeing that Dungeon Master cartoon would be okay with me. Anyone else was a stream? I say, blah, 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 no, refresh the page. Yeah, but you are talking about the cartoon that ran for less than 30 episodes and is nearly 40 years old. I see, when you boil it down, the game only exists at the table and in the minds of a handful of players. That's it, at the end of the day. You mean it's the Marty Feldman from Young Frankenstein, interact with it, blah, blah, blah. I would like to... Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess I don't, and I tend to be an optimist. I'll be honest with you. I look at things pretty optimistically. Like, get off my video game lawn. Get off my game lawn. I love it. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the interesting thing to me. So the celebrity that said it perfectly, Time Lord's wife. Oh, it's beautiful. And it's just, for me, it's even a little more ironic because I love my yard. I'm literally looking out at my yard right now. I absolutely love I'm the guy in your neighborhood laying in the grass pulling weeds out by hand. That's me. So, so that video game lawn's perfect. Yeah, so I guess I don't see... I honestly think that the younger people, the Gen Z people coming into the hobby, that was already happening, irregardless. Is that a word? Regardless? Irregardless? Whatever. Irregardless of anything that celebrities were saying or doing. I think that celebrities came out with the idea that it was going to help their careers to some degree. And I do not want to malign any of these celebrities, especially people like Joe Manganiello, I almost got it that time, and Vin Diesel, because I know they're gamers from way before their career started. But D&D was becoming such a huge thing with the Gen Z crowd, and the Gen Z crowd are gamers. These people game. Men and women, they game. It doesn't matter. And we've all read the statistics. Everybody younger than us games. They game like crazy. Now, it might just be phone games, right? It might just be whatever. I don't know any phone games, but whatever games are on the phone. But they're gamers. So, and I think gamers are universally the same kind of mindset of people. They're gamblers. At the end of the day, we've talked about this before. They really like to gamble. So I think it's just a natural progression to go, and the hobby has now exploded. It's been exploded for years, and I think that what we're all seeing and we're all feeling about, get off my video game lawn, we're all feeling that there's so many more voices now, and they're saying things, and some of these things are different than what we do. And it's a perfect example. So I'm running this table of 4 youngsters, all under the age of 20. Yeah, I think. Whatever, doesn't matter. 20 and younger, somewhere around in there. And they really look at the game. They're saying, and I shouldn't say differently because they're playing it just like we play it, but they have so many questions. They have so many things that they want to try, and like the other day, levitate. One of them's got a ring of levitation, and he asked, I can't levitate myself, but can I levitate a plate and stand on the plate and float away on the plate? And I thought, I don't know. I honestly don't know. My players who have been playing since the 1980s, they all know. They don't ask me these questions because they know the answers. But I don't know the answer, and my players aren't here. So I got these young people. Now I got to figure it out. So I read the spell, and yes, you can do that. So it's just, I think that they're coming into the hobby. They've only been doing it a year or 2 years or whatever it is, and they're having the same questions that we had back in the 80s and the 70s, but we've long since forgotten about it because we've got our lawns grown, and it's all grassy and lush, and we get out there and we pull the weeds out one at a time. We've done that, and we don't know why. Why are people asking those questions? Why are people doing things differently? Yeah, I think there's a lot of legitimacy to that. I agree with your assessment of most of the comments about the Hollywoodification, mainstreaming of gaming culture, Steve. My only real issue with the Hollywood aspect, when people who watch things like Critical Role or other actual play streaming podcasts who then layer the expectations set by GMs like Matt Mercer and others onto their mere mortal GMs. This isn't the fault of Mercer at all, but yeah, I can see that. I definitely can see that. I also think that most of the Twitch streams that I watch, man, there's so much dead space, there's so much dead time, there's so much lack of interaction, there's so much waiting for people to do things, and I don't like it. I don't think it typifies what a gaming table is like, and that's what my fear is, that people coming in will think, oh, this is how we're supposed to game, and I'm not. That's not how I game. You know, I always want motion at the table, whether it's role playing or combat or descriptions, or even if it's just joking between the players, whatever, something. And I think that's far more inducive to the way the hobby should be played. But again, there's no right or wrong way to play it. I mean, there's no... Just because I don't have dead space doesn't mean you can't have dead space. People may not want to jabber nonstop. So, I don't know. It's your point's very valid, though. Absolutely. Another anecdotal example, I'm in the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Facebook group. It has 163,000 members. It's roughly 70-30 split between people talking about Dungeons and Dragons and people talking about Critical Role. It's a phenomenon I have observed. Their impact is so appreciable. Yeah, no, I get that, absolutely. And that's, people are definitely going to talk about it. But, I mean, is it changing the nature of the game? I mean, I know that some parts of the game are being changed. I know that, like, orcs are going to be recast as not evil or whatever, but does that really change the nature of the game? They're still villains, they're still evil. It's just an orc is not evil. Now, personally, I like evil orcs. Playing Castles and Crusades in the World of Air, orcs are evil. But I don't see that changing the fundamental nature of what a role-playing game is or the way a role-playing game is played. It's like a mechanic, and we talk about this all the time with Castles and Crusades. Don't succumb to the tyranny of rules, and that's what I guess your legitimate fear is, that people who are going to watch Critical Role are going to kind of follow, oh, this is the way it's done. I don't think that's the case. Here's what I think is going to happen. The exact same thing that happens to you and to every other gamer out there. You buy the game, you watch whoever, Matt Mercer or Jerry Seinfeld, whoever. I don't think Jerry Seinfeld plays Dungeons & Dragons. But whoever, you watch him play and you think, oh, that's how I play. You sit down at the table, and within 3 games, that's long since gone. You've developed your own style, you've developed your own group, and you're rolling with it. And certainly there are better DMs and there are whatever, but I see your concern. Not sure it's that. I'm not sure it's that. So for me, I don't worry about it so much. In my day, we beat our video games in 8-bit both ways on Jennifer. See, I never had an Atari. I never had a Commodore. The first computer I got was in 1993, post-Army, and it had Windows 3.1 on it. And, no, it did not. I'm sorry, because the guy who bought it for me, a good friend of mine, 𝚃𝚘𝚕𝚕, he would not let me get a computer with Windows on it. He made me get one with DOS. So I used DOS. I didn't even have Windows until later. He would not let me use it. Let's see. Hey, everyone, just doing blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. I admit I love my video games, and I bought Baldur's Gate 3, but cannot play because my hard drive is stuck 29. Yeah, there you go. It died on you. It can't handle it. Regardless. There you go. Not irregardless. I knew there was something wrong with that word. Irrespective. I love that word. All right. Okay, so also, I shall attempt to strike irregardless from the lexicon of 7 words that I have. Xander, hate to be that person, but they did add irregardless to the... Damn it, Time Lord's wife. You ruined everything. There you go. But it just sounds... It's like... Now, this word... I hate this word. Disrespect. I hate that word. I believe it started cropping up in the 90s, and it's everywhere. It's now part of the lexicon. I just don't like it. I don't know what the opposite of respect was before disrespect, and it may have always been disrespect. I don't like that word. Critical Role is super popular, and that's cool, even if I'm not one who follows it, and it has helped bring D&D to more people. Very cool. Wizard Coast is definitely thankful for them. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of what has helped drive this into a larger crowd. But I honestly believe in watching, like I said, I've been on TikTok a bit lately, and I'm trying to expand our footprint over there. But to do that, I'm studying TikTok. So I'm watching lots and lots of videos. And most of it's DMs, and they're all younger. Every one of them's younger. 25, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Younger than me. So, and it's very fascinating. There's no discussions of Critical Role. There's no discussions of any of that stuff. It's really just the game or weird things that happen on TikTok, some weird things happen. Whatever. I don't know. It's very interesting. So I think that there is an entire generation of people that, and for instance, those 4 people, the 4 youngsters that I'm running, they don't care about any of that. They won't watch any Twitch D&D stuff. They don't watch any of it. Because it's not visual enough. You're really just watching 6 or 7 people talk and describe stuff and try to tell a story like an old radio show, like an old TV show. Really, what did they in the 50s? For those of you who don't know, in the 1950s and 60s, soap operas were live. They weren't filmed in the 70s when they started saying filmed before a live audience. What that's basically telling us culturally is that the TV shows were no longer filmed live, so that they were broadcast live. That all stopped in the 60s and 70s, somewhere around in there. But we've gone back to that, right? We've just done this full circle thing where Critical Role and shows like that is just live TV. That's all it is. But for a lot of people, I think, that watch video games, that's not as cool as watching. I can watch video games all day. I love watching video games on YouTube and on Twitch. They're just funny. They're just hilarious. You're watching tanks blow tanks up or whatever, or people do crazy stuff in video games. It's very entertaining. But to watch people play a role-playing game is less entertaining. For me. Now, I know people do that differently. Let's see there, blah, blah, blah. I think it's about the expectation management. Each group is different, then the groups need to talk about those expectations, and it's the GM, DM who has to help set those expectations. That's definitely true. In use since 1795, so yes, but then again, the standard comment. All right, so we're not going to get into an Oxford comment discussion. Jason Vey will come swinging out of the left field and attack everybody in the stream. So the heck with the powers that be. Of course, the first person who invents the full dive, blah, blah, blah. And that is how you get Sword Art Online. Alright, so there's a grammar discussion going on. See what you did, Time Lord's wife? You see what you did? Regardless is now the dictionary for reals. That's not for reals. Let's get my humble opinion. Give me a campfire, some dice, some agreed upon rules, and folks that have an imagination. I'm a happy gamer. That's what it is. And I think that's what that's a great way of putting it, Alston. I think that's what most gamers are like. And I'm talking 95% of them, whether it's the 70-30 split Kothar was talking about. People, they want a game. I'm not certain what it is in our hardwiring that makes us want to gamble, but we do. I just finished reading a history of the Comanche people, and they gambled a lot. This is way before their interaction with European or American or Spanish or Mexican societies. They gambled. They horse raced. They had these cup games they did. They had something with, I can't remember now, the kids would put legs out. There's like 3 or 4 huge games that the Comanche Indians did, Comanche Native Americans did. And what that tells me is that as a species, we really like to gamble. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter who, what your race or ethnicity or your gender or whatever beliefs are. We just like to gamble. It's probably why so many religions put, connotations on gambling. You do not gamble or whatever. But at any rate, it certainly is played under our society in this huge and gigantic way. And I think that at the end of the day, these people are gamers, whether it's Gen Z or Gen X or, is it Gen GM? Is it Gen Z? Yeah. It's boomers. I don't really believe in the whole generational thing. I'll just throw that out there. But it's boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. Is that where we are? So I think that, all of these people, a significant number of them love to gamble in one way or the other, and they game. I hate to gamble. It skips generations, Steve. There you go. I'm not a big fan of gambling either. I did it once. I was at a casino out east somewhere, and I went to the roulette table. Is that the one that spins with the black and red numbers? I did the roulette table. I put $20 down, and I lost. And that $20 was gone. And in those days, I was making $7 an hour. That was like 3 hours of work. I was going, what the? And so I went to the bar and had some beer. At least I get something out of it. So I myself am not a big gambler. But I think there's in gaming, there's an inherent gambling that's going on. Now, obviously, video games and role-playing games and whatever the hell has a better, you're far better, you're not going to lose that $20 in 42 seconds, and then you're out 3 hours of work. But, I think there's something in there. Boomers, coomers, doomers, bloomers, zoomers, yeah, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of categorizing people in any capacity. I think people are people, and we react in a wide variety of ways, depending on the situation, the time of day, the time of whatever, where we are in our lives, what we just experienced, what we're going to experience. I think everything changes. I think stuff changes constantly. And to start categorizing people it's just a bad habit. I'm a fantasy illustrator in a modern world. That's the biggest, there you go. Yeah. So that's Peter Bradley. He does a lot of our art and layout, and Peter and I work together all day. So, he's taking the risky road with me, no doubt. Yeah, so I don't know. This is a very lively discussion. This is one of my favorite discussions because it touches on so many things that I think that are kind of misconstrued by all of us. I mean, I remember sitting in, I was at Gamma Trade Show. I'm sure I've told this before. I was at the Gamma Trade Show back in 05, 06, with some other publishers. And 3rd edition was the game of the day. And, of course, 3rd edition was mechanically heavy. 3 huge rule books. And I remember sitting at a table with like 4 or 5 people, and someone said, the young people, so this is going to be millennials then, I guess, the young people won't play D&D. This is why the numbers are down. Young people won't play D&D because it's too much reading. No one reads anymore. And I said, that's just complete BS. I don't believe that at all. I said, I think that young people would play this game if they didn't have to read 900 pages of rules. If you got rid of 900 pages of rules and gave them something 4 or 5 pages long, then I think they would play the game. And it played out for us, because if you boil Castles and Crusades down to its nub, it's really just 4 or 5 pages of rules. The Siege Engine is about, 2 pages, 3 pages? It's not very long to learn how to play the Siege Engine. The rest of it is building your character. So, and then there's a chunk for examples and kind of a further explanation. But if you get the player's handbook, wherever the hell it is, you're talking 2 or 3 pages, and you've got the rules, and that's playing out even now. I mean, we're seeing an ever-growing number of people playing Castles and Crusades because it's easy. And when I was 10, I wasn't going to read 900. I still haven't read the Dungeon Master, the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide. I still haven't read that book. I still haven't read the AD&D Player's Handbook. And I played that Player's Handbook from the point it came out in 79, 80? Whenever the Player's Handbook came out until 2006. Still haven't read the Player's Handbook. I remember Davis handing it to me when it first came out. He bought it at Sears, and he handed me the book. He said, before we can keep playing, you got to read this book. And I remember looking at the book and saying, to my brother Davis, who was running the game, said, no. And I put it down. That was it. And we kept playing. Because it just, too much reading. I know a ton of comic artists from years of use conventions. Yeah, so Xander and Peter have dove into an art conversation that I can't draw anything. So I can't draw a plus sign. So I can't participate in that conversation. No, you're good. You keep going. Meanwhile, you spend all your money buying Paperback Street. Yeah, I did that. I did a huge amount of money spending Paperback Street, which is the ironic thing. But playing, I didn't want to read a bunch of rules. I still don't. I don't like to read our own rules. This is what's painful for me when I'm going through, like we're doing the reprint on the CKG and whatever, the Player's Handbook. Because I got to read some of this stuff again. I'm like, I don't want to read this stuff. But I'm a voracious reader. I read all the time, but I can't read rules. I just can't. That's why I love the old Avalon Hill board games. You had a basic, and you'd get your rule book. It's like 26 pages for the Third Reich, right? You're going to play World War II. Well, there's going to be a 3 or 4 page basic game, and then the rest of those 20 pages is for the advanced game. I loved it. I could skim these 4 pages and start playing. I didn't have to read a bunch of stuff. But, yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. Huge reader. All right, yeah, I think we had a great discussion today. We rolled right over 5 o'clock, too. This is fantastic. These are the types of discussions I like. King Kothar, you started a good one. All right, but I think Time Lord's wife, you had get off my video game lawn. That should be a t-shirt. I swear to God, that should be a t-shirt. You need to go put that on a t-shirt and sell it. I will be your first customer. That is fantastic. I hear, Steve, most of my love in reading mods or game books is to read the history of stories. I'm the same way. I won't read any rules. But if you're like describing the history of, I don't know, the fly spell. The fly spell was invented by blah, blah, blah. That stuff I'll read because it's an interesting little story. But I don't really care how fly works. I don't care what your rate of speed is. I'm going to ask you when I'm running the game, but that's as far as that's going to go. I still don't read it. When players ask, when we get this on my online games, when I do online streaming, and they ask me what their class can do, I'm like, I have no idea. I gotta go read it because I even wrote it. I don't know what it's supposed to do. I will not forget your Discord message. I do have to head over there here soon, so I will take that. I just look at the pictures in game books. Yeah, that's right. That's perfect. That should be on a t-shirt. You guys should start a t-shirt business. That's the way to do it. That's fantastic. All right, so I think that's probably it for the day. There was something else I thought I should go over, but I don't know what it is. Something to do with the Player's Handbook. I have no idea anymore. And Peter and I are working on the redesign right now, so that's coming out very, very nice. We should have something for that soon. If you haven't seen them, go check our new covers out. If you haven't, please give us a follow. I keep forgetting to say that, but please give us a follow if you haven't. We should be back on Thursday for GM's Tricks of the Trade. Blah, 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 blah. Check out the schedules, blah, blah, blah. So it's all kinds of stuff going on all over the place. So the message, Steve, more pictures and TLG product. Yeah, clearly. lots of art. Lots of it. We have actually begun that overhaul of the Codex of Erd. I've listened to you guys, and, we've had long conversations about this. So there's going to be a complete overhaul of the World of Erd, the Afterwinter Dark Fantasies campaign setting. I've got some pretty good ideas. Started to kind of tinker with art on that thing as well. That's going to tie into the Planescapes and all kinds of stuff. So exciting stuff coming down the line. If we can get these reprints, Player's Handbook, CKG. What else are we doing? NPC Almanac, the Warden. So there's something else in there. I can't remember what it is. Memorial Tomb. There's something else in there. I can't remember what it is. Monster Treasures of Erd. Once we get all these things out in the pipe, at least into the pipe, we'll be jumping back on this stuff. No bunny and cat girl art. None of that. Any news on the spelled compendium? Yeah, so it's all laid out. We need, as the rune spells are still in editing. I haven't checked on those in a week or so I need to check on those, find out where they are. Peter and I have been focusing on the Player's Archive for the last couple of days. We just finished CKG last week. Got a good handle on the Player's Archive today, and now we'll begin to execute it. So hopefully the next day or so, it's ready to go. It's ready to rumble. And then back to the spellbook. And I kind of wanted to add yet another rune, School of Runes, Mordias, the Runes of Green, I'm thinking. I don't know that I'm going to do that, but I kind of want to and get those done. All right, blah, 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 blah. Flying to the Grand Canyon on Friday. Anyone want landscape photos for reference images for art? Stuff. The Grand Canyon is a beautiful place. You're going to love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Extort. Chuck is off doing some personal stuff today, but we'll have Chuck back very, very soon. With all of that, I want to thank you all for showing up. I surely do appreciate it. It's been a fantastic stream. It's one of my favorite to date. Love conversations like this. Love to talk about all the multi-generational gamers we got going on. Just great stuff. So you all have a absolutely wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you Thursday. Oh yeah, RPG Crate, you had a great question too at the beginning. I forgot about that, Chris. You kind of got steamrolled, but actually you were the one that brought up the celebrities. Yes, no, so it was your question. That's very good. I'm just confused at this point. At any rate, everybody, thank you all for showing up. And yeah, I'm stay confused, Chris. It's just the nature of me. Wait, are we doing a raid? Oh yeah, so we're going to raid Mindari again. So Tim is yelling at me to do this. Kothar stole the credit. Damn you, Kothar. All right, so I think I've cussed a lot on today's. So I'm going to do this right, Tim. Did that work? Yep, there you go. Okay, so we're going to be heading over to Mindari. Enjoy her stream. And we will see you guys later this week. You all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Boom.